Of adults will now have the chance to receive a third dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Plus, criticism grows as a missing person case for a white woman draws national media attention that missing cases of black women have not had. And in sports, the Trimble Tomcats will look to break one of the longest winning streaks in Ohio tonight. Newswatch starts right now. Good evening, I'm Ben Schwartz. Welcome to Newswatch, your source for news impacting southeastern Ohio. The president of Athens County's chapter of the Ohio League of Women Voters says the group is disappointed by the rushed process behind redistricting in the state. The league joined forces with the ACLU earlier this week to challenge new legislative maps approved by Ohio's Redistricting Commission last week. Adrian Molenkamp, president of the Athens County chapter, says at the end of the day, they just want to see maps that work for all Ohioans.
We're disappointed by the rushed process that they had and the fact that they were not able to come to a bipartisan approval of a map. Whatever process is used to make the maps, we want to see maps that represent and work for the voters of Ohio.
Hello, I'm forecaster Henry Groff with a first look at your weather. First, we're going to be taking a look outside with SkyCam, where it is absolutely beautiful. Not a single cloud in sight. If you have not gotten outside, I think you should. Taking a look at the current weather, it is 71 degrees outside with a low humidity at around 30% and winds from the south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Looking across the region, it is in the low 70s across the entire region, except Ripley, it's around 75. New Martinsville at around 70. Columbus also at around 73. The entire region is currently seeing sunny skies. A look at this weekend's headlines. It's going to be in the 70s this weekend with showers possible on Saturday, but next week we could see the 80s. Now back over to Ben.
Thank you, Henry. It's official. Booster shots of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine can now be given to millions of adults in the U.S. The CDC partially diverged from its advisors to recommend boosters for a broader group of people. Camilla Bernal has the latest on who is now officially booster eligible.
Get a booster shot. That's the message from the White House to some Americans. The CDC recommending people 65 and older, long-term care facility residents, and people 50 to 64 with underlying conditions should get a booster shot 6 months after their second dose. The agency also endorsing the recommendation that people ages 18 to 49 with underlying medical conditions may receive a booster. But the CDC going a step further, partially diverging from its vaccine advisors, also saying people ages 18 to 64 whose jobs put them at an increased risk may get a booster shot.
Many of our frontline workers, essential workers, and those in congregate settings come from communities that have already been hardest hit. Withholding access for boosters from these people and communities would only worsen the inequities that I have committed to fight against.
The White House says Pfizer booster shots will be available in 80,000 locations, including over 40,000 pharmacies nationwide. President Biden also assuring people who received Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccines that they still have a high degree of protection.
Our doctors and scientists are working day and night to analyze the data from those two organizations on whether and when you need a booster shot.
I'm Camila Bernal reporting.
Moderna has asked the FDA to authorize booster shots for its vaccine. No decision has been made yet. And Johnson & Johnson says partial data released this week shows an additional dose boosted immunity, but the company has not yet applied with the FDA to consider a booster vaccine dose. The rate of new COVID-19 cases reported in the U.S. appears to be slowing, but many hospitals remain packed. And a new analysis shows treating COVID-19 comes with a hefty price tag. Mandy Gaither breaks down the numbers in today's Health Minute.
The cost of COVID and hospitals across the U.S., more than a quarter of all ICU beds in use are for COVID-19 patients.
The amount of people in the ICU that we're seeing in this wave is, quite frankly, really high. It's something that is very astonishing how quickly people have gotten sick and ended up in the ICU.
The organization Fair Health analyzed insurance claims and found that the average bill for a COVID-19 hospitalization is about $75,000, and more serious hospitalizations like those that require the use of ventilators or days in the ICU can cost more than $300,000 on average. After price negotiations, the average allowed amount actually paid by patients and in-network insurance providers is more than $33,000 for a general COVID-19 hospitalization and about $98,000 for a more complex hospitalization. Those most at risk of being admitted to the hospital for COVID-19, people who are unvaccinated. Right now, the pace of initial COVID-19 vaccinations is the slowest it's been in 2 months.
We do need to get these vaccination rates up higher if we want to create a backstop against the kind of spread that we've seen this past summer.
While national daily cases of COVID-19 have inched downward for more than a week, the overall surge driven by the Delta variant isn't done. Experts worry cases still may spike with colder weather. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Beside the financial cost of a hospital stay, there is an emotional cost as well. A Cleveland family is experiencing this firsthand.
Coming home, no, she's not here. It's just different.
A husband grieving his wife of nearly 19 years.
And I know she would want us to keep moving on and continuing.
Travis Feltner says Amber was a nurturer and his very best friend. Tuesday night, a little over a week since she was admitted to intensive care, she died of COVID-19. She was a mom to 8 children, ranging from a 20-year-old UC student to 3-year-old twins.
It's just hard because they keep asking for more. They keep asking for a mom.
In their eyes, she was Mom of the Year, devoted, strong, and kind, a Girl Scout leader who also served on the PTA.
I would never want anybody to go through what I'm going through. It's just a complete nightmare.
He had to watch his wife fight from a distance. A year ago, he was the one fighting to get home after a man speeding away from police slammed into him.
It was just last year, the rules were reversed, but the outcome is completely different. And I think I know why the outcome is completely different now.
Are you saying you think you survived last year because the kids need you right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ever since that happened, I was always questioning myself, why am I still here? Why did I survive?
He lived to spend another year by his wife's side and to hold her hand in her final moments. Now he's urging others to protect themselves. He says Amber was not vaccinated and wouldn't want others to follow in her footsteps.
Stay healthy, get vaccinated.
To prevent more heartbreak like his and his 8 kids.
Just something I don't want no one to go through.
For information on how to get vaccinated in Ohio, viewers can go to coronavirus.ohio.gov. Again, that's coronavirus.ohio.gov for help finding a COVID-19 vaccine near you. A massive manhunt is underway as an arrest warrant is issued by a United States District Court. And criticism circulates as many white women's missing person cases gain more national attention than women of color. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
We've hit the halfway point of the regular season, and Week 6 of Gridiron Glory will tell you which teams are ready for a strong second half of the season. Athens travels to Logan in a battle between 2 of the most historic programs in Southeast Ohio. Fort Frye travels and looks to keep their 36th regular season streak alive as they travel to Gloucester to take on the Tomcats. Finally, Megs hosts Nelsonville York as the Buckeyes are hoping to continue their win streak. We'll have all that for you right here on WOUB.
Mr. Bojangles.
The great Sammy Davis Jr. triumphed despite all the odds.
I'm colored, Jewish, and Puerto Rican.
When I move into a neighborhood, I wipe it out.
Sammy Davis Jr.'s whole life was about confronting obstacles.
Mr. Bojangles.
But he had a vision for himself that was bigger than white or black.
1, 2, 3.
Look for the legendary Sammy Davis Jr. on American Masters.
Cannabis.
People believe it can cure any disease that exists, or it's going to cause the downfall of society.
In a country where people are talking about its medical use, someone gets arrested for cannabis every 58 seconds.
For what conditions is it beneficial, and for what conditions is it harmful?
What does the science tell us? Truth through science. We should know the answers.
The Cannabis Question on Nova.
Looking down from space, satellite cameras tell stories of life on our planet from a completely new perspective, revealing powerful movements of man and nature, breathtaking kaleidoscopes of color, extraordinary patterns and shapes, and the relentless forces of change. Discover the amazing view of our home as you've never seen it before.
The U.S. District Court of Wyoming issuing an arrest warrant last night for Brian Laundrie in connection with his activities after Gabby Petito's death. The 23-year-old returned home earlier this month from a road trip without his fiancée before disappearing. Petito's remains were found Sunday in Wyoming. The massive manhunt for Laundrie has stretched into another day in South Florida. The national attention from the Petito case has caused many to question why there is not similar national coverage for other missing person cases.
Every time a phone rings, Raja McQueen's sisters pray that it's news.
Maybe today I'll get a call and say, you know, something about Raja, but every day I wake up, it's the same.
Raja is the youngest of 6 girls, a mom to 2 boys, and a woman with dreams for a bright future.
She loved music. Love God, love her family.
But for 3 months now, the one and only dream Raja's sisters have is to wake up from their nightmare.
Because you got to go on with stuff in your daily life and work and live, and you still worry about your sibling, not knowing if they're dead or alive, or if you're ever going to see them again at all. You know, it's like, it's heartbreaking.
Raja was last seen at 7:30 in the morning on June 26th near East 131st Street in Cleveland. She was getting into her silver Nissan Sentra. Officials say 4 hours later, her car was spotted at Broadway and Union, but Raja was not the one behind the wheel.
She's missing, the car's missing, like she has not been home, like you didn't go to work, like, I mean, it's just like she just vanished. I mean, you got to be somewhere.
For months, the family has passed out flyers, gone door to door, and looked for answers themselves. Raja's sister Shamir says they get updates from police on the case, but it is minimal.
I'm not saying the police haven't been doing their part. I just don't think they have enough to do it.
Agony, they say, is only made worse when they see other missing women cases, mostly white women, that are thrust into the national spotlight with what seems to be a nationwide urgency to find them.
Just another black girl just missing. And I'm not saying no one is more important than the other, because she's not the only person that's missing. I just want those resources that everybody else is getting to at least apply for her.
And while they've accepted that Raja is missing, the thought of not ever finding her is unimaginable.
We would take her any way we can get her. We just want her to come home. I mean, it's just tired. We're so tired of not knowing.
Anyone who has information regarding the whereabouts of Raja McQueen should contact Detective Callahan at 216-623-3138. Again, that's 216-623-3138. Members of Congress speak on the situation at the southern border. That story's still ahead.
The low 80s may return next week. I'll have more information on that in my full forecast coming up. Now I look at stocks of local interest.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow, nothing's more rare than a one-of-a-kind treasure.
I've never seen a needlework tablecloth. They're very rare.
My grandfather was small, and in 1903, he hit this ball to be the shortest home run in history to date.
Discover more next time on Antiques Roadshow from Winterthur Museum, Garden and Library.
This month in Passport on the PBS Video app, your on-demand library for the best of PBS.
What are you doing here?
Frankie Drake, private detective. I'm investigating a murder.
Ted opened up 70 donut shops.
They call me Donut King.
He gave Cambodian refugees a chance in America.
You really are stealing a frame out of life and saying, this is worth 1,000 words.
These and other shows from your PBS station are available with Passport on the PBS Video app. Download it today.
We've hit the halfway point of the regular season, and Week 6 of Gridiron Glory will tell you which teams are ready for a strong second half of the season. Athens travels to Logan in a battle between two of the most historic programs in Southeast Ohio. Fort Fry travels and looks to keep their 36 regular season streak alive as they travel to Gloucester to take on the Tomcats. Finally, Megs hosts Nelsonville York as the Buckeyes are hoping to continue their win streak. We'll have all that for you right here on WOUB.
Mr. Bojangles.
The great Sammy Davis Jr. triumphed despite all the odds.
I'm colored, Jewish, and Puerto Rican. When I move into a neighborhood, I wipe it out.
Sammy Davis Jr.'s whole life was about confronting obstacles.
Mr. Bojangles.
But he had a vision for himself that was bigger than white or black.
1, 2, 3.
Look for the legendary Sammy Davis Jr. on American Masters.
Hello, I'm forecaster Henry Groff with your full weather. Right now we're going to be taking a look at the satellite. And as you can see, we see abundance of clear skies throughout the region. But if you look towards the north where around the visible satellite logo, you can see this was the leftover of what we saw earlier this week, which was a mid-latitude cyclone. We saw plenty of rain this past week, and now we're entering with cooler weather. Looking at the surface analysis, you can see that there is another cold front throughout the region. High pressure, stationary over our area for today. That's why we saw such clear weather. But heading into tomorrow, this low pressure will quickly move through the region. Looking at tonight, it's going to be in the low 60s by 8 p.m., dropping down to around 55 after midnight. It's going to be abundantly clear with increasing clouds heading into the area after midnight ahead of the cold front tomorrow. Tonight in Athens, it's going to be in the upper 40s, a bit nippy, partly cloudy with more clouds after midnight. Winds should start to die down with winds out from the south at around 5 miles per hour. Looking across the region, we can see upper 40s through the south and low to mid 50s towards the north, with Columbus at 53, Athens at 49, Ripley also at 49, and Cambridge at around 50 degrees. Looking at the weather for tomorrow, high pressure moves out of the region really quickly with a cold front right behind it. Could see some showers possibly in the afternoon, but once those showers move through, no chance of precipitation after that. Looking at the morning weather for tomorrow, we're going to start off again at around 49 degrees, increasing clouds, and by noon we should be in the low 60s. Temperatures will stay in the 60s. We could hit 68 degrees, not likely the 70s. Again, an afternoon shower with a chance of rain at around 30%. Winds from the southwest at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Looking across the region, again, low 70s, upper 60s. Columbus will be at 68. Ripley is going to be reaching around 72 degrees. And looking at the full weather, it's going to be sunny throughout the entire week. Saturday is the only day with a chance of rain. Saturday will be at 68, Sunday at 73, but once we hit Monday through Wednesday, it's going to be in the upper 70s, and we may even hit the 80s. So we're not yet into fall, but Low temperatures will stay in the mid-50s. Now over to Ben.
Thank you, Henry. Thousands of Haitian immigrants are in limbo in Texas and Mexico as the Biden administration struggles to get a handle on the crisis. The U.S. has flown more than 1,400 migrants back to Haiti. Tractors cleared part of a huge camp under the Del Rio International Bridge. More than 3,000 migrants remain there. CNN's Melissa Bell has more from Port-au-Prince.
A scathing letter of rebuke to the U.S. government and a high-level resignation. The American Special Envoy to Haiti, Daniel Foote, leaving his post in protest, telling the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, on Wednesday that he will, quote, not be associated with the United States' inhumane, counterproductive decision to deport thousands of Haitian refugees from the U.S.-Mexico border. It comes as chaos intensifies at the Port-au-Prince airport. Migrants arriving in droves from encampments at the U.S. border with Mexico, they were deported en masse back to Haiti by the American government. Many longed for a better life in the U.S., desperate to escape devastating poverty, political unrest, and escalating gang violence in the Haitian capital. The former U.S. envoy describing the situation as so dangerous that American officials in Haiti are confined to compounds. But these Haitian citizens have nowhere to hide, forced to return to the homeland they were trying so hard to escape. Those words by the U.S. Special Envoy about the grinding poverty, the endemic violence, and the lack of basic resources here in Haiti also reflected in the assessment made by the Department of Homeland Security in the spring when it decided to accord special protected person status to those Haitians already in the United States. And yet, the Haitians being returned at the moment here in their hundreds every day haven't even been given the chance of applying for asylum. Many return after a treacherous, sometimes deadly journey, winding through South and Central America, some crossing nearly a dozen countries en route to the U.S. Some of those we spoke to tell us that once at the border, U.S. officials treated them more like inmates than exhausted refugees.
When we got to the U.S., they closed all the access points, and we could not go to buy food.
When we arrived in the U.S., the authorities put us on a bus and sent us to jail and said we would be released in 2 days. They put chains on our feet, around our stomachs, and our hands. They put us in cars and took us to the airport.
Migrants continue to wade across the Rio Grande, hoping for a better life in the U.S. At one point, law enforcement in Mexico formed a human chain to stop people from getting across the river.
I'm here at Trimble High School, where the Trimble Tomcats are preparing to take on the Fort Bragg Cadets in the Gridiron Glory Game of the Week. I'll have details on that and much more action going on underneath the Friday night lights when Newswatch returns. Now here's a look at what's coming up on your local public television station.
Cannabis.
People believe it can cure any disease that exists, or it's going to cause the downfall of society.
In a country where people are talking about its medical use, someone gets arrested for cannabis every 58 seconds.
For what conditions is it beneficial, and for what conditions is it harmful?
What does the science tell us? Truth through science. We should know the answers.
The Cannabis Question on Nova.
Looking down from space, satellite cameras tell stories of life on our planet from a completely new perspective, revealing powerful movements of man and nature, breathtaking kaleidoscopes of color, extraordinary patterns and shapes, and the relentless forces of change. Discover the amazing view of our home as you've never seen it before.
We've hit the halfway point of the regular season, and Week 6 of Gridiron Glory will tell you which teams are ready for a strong second half of the season. Athens travels to Logan in a battle between two of the most historic programs in Southeast Ohio. Fort Fry travels and looks to keep their 36th regular season streak alive as they travel to Gloucester to take on the Tomcats. Finally, Megs hosts Nelsonville York as the Buckeyes are hoping to continue their win streak. We'll have all that for you right here on WOUB.
This month in Passport on the PBS Video app, your on-demand library for the best of PBS.
What are you doing here?
Frankie Drake, private detective. I'm investigating a murder.
Ted opened up 70 donut shops.
They call me Donut King.
He gave Cambodian refugees a chance in America.
You really are stealing a frame out of life and saying, this is worth 1,000 words.
These and other shows from your PBS station are available with Passport on the PBS Video app. Download it today.
I'm here in Gloucester, Ohio for the Gridiron Glory Game of the Week between the Fort Fry Cadets and the Trimble Tomcats. Fort Fry has one of the longest regular season win streaks in the state of Ohio. They haven't lost in the regular season since September 1st, 2017. It will be interesting to see what Trimble has in store to try and pull off the upset tonight. We talked with members from both teams to hear how they're preparing for tonight's massive battle.
Establish the run game as we always do. We got to be able to run our plays that we got to run through the tackles, and we just got to do what we usually do. I mean, we can't really change our game plan, and they have a really good defense. They do every year, and I think we have a really good offense, so it's just going to be a really good game all around.
Trimble's always wanted to play Fort Fry, show them what we got. We're the two best teams in the area, and we have been for a long time.
They're more of a playoff opponent than anyone at TVC is.
We've wanted to play these guys since my freshman year. I remember we'd always try to get them on the schedule. And now being able to have them on the schedule is actually really nice, and it's going to help us definitely be able to prepare for a team like that, and then that'll help translate us to become a better team to go into the playoffs.
Both teams are looking forward to this. It should be a playoff atmosphere, and will help us both. You know, we're in different divisions now, so no matter the outcome of the game, we're not going to have to play each other again in the playoffs.
Now that we're started, we don't really focus on the playoffs at all. It's just about winning week to week. So it's all about Trimble right now.
This game is one of just 10 games that Gridiron Glory is going to be at tonight. Some of the biggest include unbeaten McLean hosting Washington Courthouse. McLean has been a surprise this season. They won just 3 games in 2019 and 2020, but they have caught fire by winning their first 4 games of the season in 2021. They open FAC play against a Washington Courthouse squad that has a lot of weapons on offense. Moving from the FAC to the MVL, John Glenn is hosting Meadowbrook in a key small school versus big school battle. The Colts are 4-1 on the season, while John Glenn is 2-2. The Little Muskies got a huge victory over Sheridan in their last game. While this is a key conference battle, it also matters for playoff points in Division 4, Region 15. Meadowbrook is currently 5th, while John Glenn is 9th. Staying in that region, Heath and Licking Valley are both looking to boost their playoff position. The Bulldogs are currently 14th, while the Bulldogs are currently 12th. Panthers are 14th. Heath plays Lakewood, while Licking Valley hosts Zanesville. A couple unbeaten Pike County teams are putting their perfect record on the line at home tonight. Waverly plays host to Portsmouth West in the conference opener for both teams. Levi Gullion and the loaded Piketon offense play Paint Valley tonight. The Red Streaks are averaging over 44 points per game so far this season. Another stud Division 5 quarterback is Coulter Cleveland of Megs. He leads the Marauders as they host Nelsonville York in the TVC Ohio battle. Lots to be excited about tonight. You can hear Trimble. They're getting ready to come out. I'll toss it back to Ben in the studio in Athens.
Thank you, Michael. Scientists have created the smallest ever human-made structure that can fly. Northwestern University engineers say this is a winged microchip named the Microflyer. The chip is about the size of a grain of sand and is built to use wind to fly. The scientists studied nature to come up with the design. It spins like a helicopter through the
Support comes from Goldsberry Wealth Strategies in Athens and Parkersburg, focusing on helping people achieve a life well lived with a custom strategy. Information at goldsberrywealth.com. Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, member FINRA, SIPC. Support comes from Snyder, Fuller, and Stroh in Athens, providing retirement planning and assistance to Southeast Ohio for 50 years.
Snyder, Fuller, and Stroh, not just another financial firm. More information at Snyder, Fuller, Stroh.